So you're going to take your paper and you're going to fold it, or you're going to separate the 3 half sheets. That is even too big. There we go. And then here's your next step. Yeah, that looks good. You are going to take the top part, so you might want to watch, and you're going to fold this down to where they're all about a finger's width, and maybe even like a pinky finger width. Right there, and then you're going to fold this top part down. All right, so once you fold those over and then put your staples in, you have created your foldable. Okay, so this is what it looks like. On the outside, you're going to write these 6 things. And I even drew like lines on mine. I would do that. It just kind of helps to separate these things. So pause and write these down. Ooh, you know what? I didn't draw my lines. There we go. There's that first line. So I'm going to open up my foldable, and it looks like this. I drew a line there so just to keep this separate. And then you have these triangles, and we are going to use these triangles today. What you're going to do is there's 5 different groups of triangles. You're going to cut off the top 2 triangles. You don't really need, I tried to trim these enough to where you don't need scraps. But you're going to glue this to the top part. Don't glue it like way up to the top. You're going to glue it, you know, pretty far at the top. Under it, you are going to write these letters. You're going to write S, 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 and then you're going to draw a triangle. So just make sure you have enough space for all of those things, and that you glue that down. All right. So we're just going to match these sides up and show which 3 sides are congruent. And we talked about these markings yesterday, well, a couple days ago. And so like there's 1 marking here, 1 marking here. So we're going to write AC is congruent to EG. And then where am I getting these letters? AC is this side of the triangle. EG is this side of the triangle. They both have 1 tick mark on it, so they're congruent to each other. We need 3 of these. Okay, BC is going to be congruent to FG. So make sure you don't go too fast that you're like getting the points wrong. And then the third side is AB is congruent to EF. Okay, so all I did was match the 3 sides up there. So basically what this saying is that this side is congruent, these sides are congruent, these sides are congruent, therefore these 2 triangles are congruent. Because all 3 sides are congruent, the 2 triangles are congruent. So we can say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle, and then the important part about this one's actually really easy. They're not all as easy. But you got to match up the points too. So like A matches up with E, so we have to write E first. B is in between the 3 and the 2 sides, so it matches up with F. And then G matches up with C. Okay, so you've marked all of those sides congruent, shown that they're congruent, therefore the triangles are congruent. All right, so this is what your next page is going to look like. You're going to glue these triangles down. For these sides, here's my marking. So I've got SP is congruent. Who out there can tell me what this side is called? Anybody awake? What is this side what is SP congruent to? Oh, yeah, RQ or QR. Perfect. So I can write RQ, I can write QR. Awesome. All right, this angle one is a little bit tricky here. We've got this angle is congruent to this angle. You cannot write angle P is congruent to angle R, because if you say angle P, what are you talking about? You're talking about the whole thing, the top one, the bottom one, who knows? You've got to write 3 letters. So S, P, R would be the first one. Who wants a dum-dum? Who can name the second one? What you got? Beautiful. I hope you wanted the dum-dum, because you got it. You like it? That flavor? If you don't like that flavor, you can switch it out at the end. But SPR is congruent to PRQ. Beautiful. So PRQ. How are they congruent? Well, it's because they're marked. That's how we know they're congruent. And then there's another congruent side, and this one's tricky. I'm not gonna call anybody out, but there is another side that's congruent on one triangle and congruent on the other triangle. It's just a little bit tricky. But there's a side that touches. So look at the two triangles. There's a side that touches. On one triangle, so on this one, it's called triangle, or it's called side PR. On another triangle, it's also, so like the triangle on the right, it's also called PR. It's called the same thing. So there is a property that we'll talk about on Monday, but when you have two of the exact same things that are congruent, it's going to be the reflexive property. Okay? And so naming these triangles, SPR, I'm going to just write the first one down, just 3 letters. And then the last one, you've got to actually match the letters. So S is not the same as P on the other triangle, right? S and Q are the ones that match up. But P matches up, so P on this triangle, if we look on this triangle, which one matches up with P? R, yeah, the P and R match up. So P and R, and then R on this triangle R on this triangle matches up with P on the other triangle, which is really confusing because when you're writing this, you want to, I would think you would write SPR would match up with QPR, but that's not how they match up because R on one triangle matches up with P on the other. So that one's tricky and we'll look more into that. But there is something that I want you to write on this top part. So notice the order of this. SAS. The angle must be between the sides. And if you notice, the combination of these 3 letters also spells a different word. You can write it however you want on this page, however is memorable. I will write it the more appropriate way, but the shocking thing is, on the Delta Math, this will be one of the reasons, and you have to, like, if it's ever SSA, you would have to say not congruent, because that is not one of these 5 reasons. All right, let's go to the next one, and cut our next triangles out and glue them in. Okay, so we're matching these angles, and notice there's only one angle that's marked, but the nice thing about this is you can just write angle A, because if you say angle A, you know we're talking about angle A. It can't be anything else, so that's nice. Angle A is going to be congruent. So here's one triangle, and then we're comparing it to the other triangle. One angle A is down here. You've got to look on the other triangle what matches. Ooh, it's angle B. So A on this triangle, B on this triangle. That matches one angle together. And then the side must be in between we'll write that at the top actually. Side must be in between the 2 angles. So it's like a side sandwich. The side must be in between the 2 angles. That side has to be in between. So these are the 2 angles that have to be congruent or it wouldn't work out. But the side is AE and EB. So if you guys are having a hard time seeing that, here's the side. A and E is, one segment. The other segment is EB. So this bookend and that bookend. That's the side. And then the other angle. So these angles are congruent to each other. And so these 2 angles are vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. And you guys are going to have to identify that, basically starting on Monday when we look at proofs. But for this one, you can't just write angle E. You've got to use 3 letters. So like A, E, D is congruent to angle C, E, B. And then triangle, go ahead and write this. Triangle AED is congruent to triangle. And then we'll actually stop here. I think we'll just fill out the end of the last, we'll fill this out, but we'll fill out these last 2 tomorrow. I might do it for the video, but not for you guys. All right, so that's AED is congruent to B matches with A, E matches with E, and then C matches. All right, so these last ones, the angles, angle C matches with angle G, angle E matches with angle A, and then side BA is congruent to EF. The triangle BAC is congruent to triangle FEG. So one thing that you need to notice is that like C and A are not sandwiching the side. It's angled and angled and side. The side is not sandwiched. All right, and then the last one, we've got a hypotenuse, which is BC, is congruent to EF. And then that hypotenuse has to be across from the right angle, and it's the longest side. And then the leg is just the other side. It touches the right angle. So AB is congruent to ED. So triangle ABC is congruent is congruent to triangle. So A is that right angle. So D has to go first. E is in between the hypotenuse and the leg. So E matches that. And then F. And that's all the pages of the foldable.